Why do the men who give the most always get replaced the fastest? You were available, emotionally honest, ready to grow with her, but the more you gave, the more invisible you became. She didn't fall in love with you. She fell in love with the fantasy, and when reality showed up, she vanished. Machiavelli warned of this, that many women don't love men. They love the image they can project onto them, an ideal, a story, a mirror for their needs. And the moment you stop fitting the fantasy, you're no longer a person. You're an error. In this video, you'll uncover the psychological traps behind modern love and how to reverse the power dynamic without saying a word. If you've ever been replaced after showing your heart, this isn't advice, it's your turning point. Stay. Machiavelli's concept of the unconscious and projection. The moment she called you different was the moment she stopped seeing you at all. She wasn't admiring you, she was uploading you into a role she rehearsed long before you appeared. The warmth in her eyes? It wasn't recognition, it was construction. In her mind, you became the mentor, the protector, the mystery, the dreamer. And you, thinking it was real, stepped in, trying to match the mask she handed you. Liam was 31, UX designer, smart, emotionally present. He met her at a gallery in Lisbon, shared a laugh, a long walk, and something that felt like depth. She said he was refreshing, finally a man who listens. Within 2 weeks, she was dreaming out loud about future plans. He didn't resist, he adjusted. He stayed vulnerable, he gave space. He asked about her childhood, he remembered details, and slowly, unknowingly, he stopped being Liam and started being her version of Liam. She lit up when he mirrored her vision, but the moment he hesitated, chose solitude over constant communication, something shifted. Her eyes became colder, her replies became shorter. And then, one night, mid-dinner, mid-sentence, she looked away, blank, silent, almost embarrassed to still be sitting there. Liam didn't yell, he didn't cry, he just watched her check out. That flicker of absence, the way her smile died mid-joke, that was the moment he realized he was never truly seen, he was performed. And now the script had changed. His chest tightened, his hands stopped moving, and in the hum of the restaurant around them, he felt it. The quiet erasure of a man who no longer fit the role. Machiavelli warned us, many women don't fall in love with men, they fall in love with their projections of men. They fall for a figure, a function, an archetype. In Jungian terms, it's the animus, the unconscious masculine figure every woman carries within. When she meets a man, she maps that inner figure onto him, and if he fits the outline even briefly, she pours meaning into him. But when he deviates, when reality shows, she doesn't rewrite the fantasy, she just recasts the part. What comes next isn't rejection, it's the quiet replacement of presence with performance. He thought being emotionally available made him rare. She saw it as familiar. He gave space, she filled it. With imagination, he gave honesty, she used it to complete her movie. And when the script no longer fit, she didn't ask questions. She called cut. How many men spend years rehearsing for roles they never auditioned for? Don't answer too fast. Don't chase clarity. Don't try to prove your character. Just pause. And look around. Is she seeing you or projecting him? Do you disagree with any of these? Challenge it below, with logic. We read everything. Stop giving more of yourself to clarify her fantasy. Withdraw. Withhold. Wait. Let her sit in the silence you once filled. Because what I'll show you next isn't coldness. It's clarity. Disguised as distance, but projection is just the surface. Beneath it, there's something darker. Something she doesn't even know is speaking through her. And if you don't see it, you'll keep being judged by rules you never agreed to and replaced by standards no man can meet. What comes next reveals the hidden tyrant inside her mind and why it keeps rewriting your role without warning. 2. The Animus, the inner masculine tyrant. She didn't change. She was always someone else. speaking with a voice she didn't know wasn't hers. That's the part no one warns you about. You think she's conscious of her decisions, her affection, her cruelty, her pull, her distance. But what if it's not her speaking? What if there's something inside her scripting every interaction? Something that doesn't care about fairness, truth, or consequences? And what if you're not dating her, but the shadow of a man she created years before she met you? Jason, 38, finance director in Berlin, met her during a consulting trip. She was smart, composed, sharp, challenging, but intriguing. She loved that he didn't over-explain, that he listened but didn't bend. She said he was solid, a man who couldn't be shaken. He believed her. For months, their rhythm was effortless. Until one evening, over drinks, she brought up her ex, a violent artist she claimed to despise, but her eyes flickered when she spoke about him, like recalling danger with a hint of awe. Jason stayed quiet. The next few weeks, her tone shifted. She started picking fights, tiny ones, challenging his opinions, interrupting calmly made points. She said he was too passive, too neutral. The man she once praised for being stable was now boring. One night she blurted, "You don't push back hard enough. Where's your fire?" Jason froze, not in fear, but recognition. He wasn't failing. He just wasn't triggering the chaos she unconsciously craved. Machiavelli called it the Animus, the inner masculine image that lives inside every woman. When immature, this internal archetype becomes a tyrant. It isn't attracted to goodness, but to friction. It feeds not on balance, but polarity. And when the animus dominates, the woman becomes possessed, not by demons, but by an invisible ideal of what a real man should be. She starts seeking intensity, not intimacy, conflict, not connection, control, not curiosity. And the worst part? She doesn't know she's doing it. Which one exposed a habit you didn't know you had? Comment the shift you're about to make. You keep trying to reason with her, but you're not speaking to her. You're speaking to the ghost inside her mind. In 30 seconds, I'll show you why the more rational you are, the more insane you'll look to someone ruled by a phantom masculine. He thought being calm was strength. She mistook it for weakness. He sought peace, she craved combustion. He gave presence, she wanted provocation. So she created it. How many men are punished not for who they are, but for failing to trigger the fantasy? How often does logic lose to projection simply because it lacks drama? Withdraw from her games. Stop reacting. Don't try to fix confusion born from within her, because what I'll show you next isn't suppression. It's how to reverse her internal power play without becoming the villain in her story. But there's a twist, one most men never see coming, because while she's guided by projections, you're performing for them. And the more you try to be her exception, the deeper you fall into the script she's already written. Up next, why your reactions are not resistance, but rehearsed lines in her psychological theater. 3. Men's role in the psychological theater. He thought being chosen meant he was special, but he was just next in line for a role he didn't know he was auditioning for. That's how it starts. She looks at you like you're different, smiles at things you didn't say, fills in the blanks with fantasies you never promised, and you, like every man who was taught that love equals validation, play along. You become charming, stable, present. You respond faster. You try harder. You think, she sees something in me no one else has, but she doesn't. She sees what she projected onto you. And when that illusion begins to fade, so do you. Leo, 32, digital strategist in Toronto. Met her through mutual friends. She was magnetic. Said he was the first man who actually listens. She called him safe, not like the others. For the first time in years he felt chosen, valued. Every date, every call, every compliment was proof. So he leaned in, shared more, adjusted his tone, softened his edges, sacrificed time, space, even career opportunities to show her he was all in, until one day she texted less, pulled back, criticized him for being too available, said she felt the spark was fading. It didn't make sense. He did everything right. But somehow, it felt like he had become invisible, disposable. And the worst part, he blamed himself. What Leo didn't realize was this: he wasn't being rejected for who he was. He was being discarded for no longer fitting a role that was never written by him in the first place. Machiavelli called it the psychological theater, and most men aren't the writers, they're the actors. She's the casting director, the screenwriter, and the audience. You were hired to make her feel a story she's been rehearsing since girlhood. You mistake desire for intimacy, praise for connection. But what she loves is the mirror, the emotion, the fantasy, not the man behind the performance. And when you stop triggering the narrative, she changes the actor, not the script. Which one of these cost you the most, personally? Drop a one-line story below, no names, just truth. What comes next reveals why your most genuine moments are often what get you cut from the scene. He gave loyalty, she interpreted routine. He gave truth, she felt boredom. He gave availability, she felt control and lost desire. And still, he asked what he did wrong. How many men are rewarded not for who they are, but for how well they perform as her imagined hero? And how often does authenticity get punished simply because it's no longer entertaining? Stop trying to convince her you're the right man. Start noticing when you're just the right mask, the right shape, the right echo of a role you never agreed to play. Because what I'll show you next isn't retreat. It's the first strategic refusal to participate in her narrative. And if you miss what's coming, you'll keep rehearsing for an audience that's already picked your replacement. Up next, the brutal, unglamorous path Machiavelli said was the only way out: individuation. 4. The path to individuation. They say time heals all wounds, but some men never even start bleeding because they've numbed themselves into roles so well rehearsed they forget they were written by someone else. You've seen him. Polite, patient, endlessly adaptable, always asking, "What do you want me to be?" Never once asking, "Who the hell am I without you?" There was a man named Tyrant, 36, corporate consultant in London, smart, smooth, always agreeable. He prided himself on being the safe choice for every woman he dated, and it worked, until it didn't. One evening she looked at him across the dinner table, expression flat, voice distant. "You're everything I said I wanted, but somehow I feel nothing." His hands froze around the wine glass. That line wasn't confusion, it was execution. All the compromises, the approvals, the emotional self-bending, erased with a shrug. That night, Darren didn't cry. He didn't beg. He just sat in silence, realizing she had fallen out of love with the version of him she helped create. And worse, he couldn't remember who he was before her. Machiavelli didn't romanticize growth. He called individuation a psychic rebirth, a brutal peeling away of false layers until the core self emerges. It's not about improving the mask, it's about smashing it, about confronting the fragments you've disowned, the timid boy, the angry man, the unloved son. Most will never do it, because facing those shadows means giving up the performance and risking the possibility you were never loved for your truth, only your utility. What if the identity she adored was just the best performance you ever gave? He thought he was evolving, she thought he was just available. He believed loyalty would earn depth. She interpreted predictability as emotional death. Here's the move. Stop chasing her recognition. Start reclaiming your reflection. Withdraw, not to punish but to reconnect. Go quiet, not to manipulate but to finally hear the voice you've silenced. Because when you stop performing, the people worth keeping don't walk away. They lean in. Which strategy do you wish your younger self had known? Comment it like you're writing to someone still stuck in the old cycle. But don't think this ends with solitude. The next part reveals why your craving to be chosen is the very thing that's been rewriting your soul into someone else's script. Miss it, and you'll keep shape-shifting to please, and wonder why no one ever stays. 5. The tragedy of self-betrayal. He didn't leave because he was rejected. He left because he realized he had abandoned himself long before she did. That's the tragedy, not the heartbreak, but the silent erosion of identity that happens when a man starts editing himself to fit her expectations. You think you're being smart, keeping the peace. You lower your voice, silence your edge, avoid confrontation, not because you're weak, but because you think love requires it. But you're not compromising, you're erasing, and no one respects a ghost they helped create. Liam was 32, consultant, polished, polite, always agreeable. He was the kind of man who made everything easier, except his own life. His girlfriend once said, "You're everything I've ever wanted," and he believed it. He made her coffee the way she liked it, watched the shows she liked, laughed at the jokes he didn't find funny. He thought his silence was strength, that his compliance would prove loyalty. But over time, the compliments faded. Her voice changed, her eyes sharpened. Every opinion he shared was met with, "That's not like you," so he adapted. Softer words, gentler tone, more listening, less challenging. He dropped his edge, one sentence at a time, until one day she looked at him and said, "I don't know who you are anymore." And the truth? Neither did he. He didn't fight. He didn't scream. He didn't beg her to stay. He just sat there, silent. Not because he was composed, but because there was nothing left to say. He watched her leave. Not just the apartment, but the performance he'd worked so hard to perfect. And in that silence, he realized something far worse than heartbreak. The mask he wore wasn't just for her. It had grown onto his skin. He had become unrecognizable, not to her, but to himself. Machiavelli warned of this exact collapse. He didn't call it empathy. He didn't call it maturity. He called it self-betrayal. A man who abandons his inner development becomes a mirror for someone else's fantasy, warping his form to please a projection, not a person. And the cruel irony? The more he bends, the less he's seen. The more he agrees, the more invisible he becomes. Like clay without heat, he molds easily, but never becomes solid. He never becomes real. And eventually he cracks, not from pressure, but from emptiness. Next, I'll show you why the part of you she stops respecting is always the part you gave away first. The second you silence your edge to earn comfort, you've already begun your own erasure. He believed submission was connection. She interpreted it as weakness. And weakness, when sensed, not spoken, invites correction, not compassion. At what point does kindness become surrender? When does understanding turn into absence? When a man begins censoring his truth to protect a fantasy, he becomes disposable. Not because he lacks value, but because he's lost shape. Don't rush to fix it. Don't beg to be understood. Just pause and notice, who would you be if you stopped bending? What would happen if you told the truth, not with anger, but with presence? Because the next shift isn't about pleasing her, it's about reintroducing yourself to the parts you abandoned. The fire, the clarity, the unedited version of your voice. The next part reveals what women actually respond to. Why mystery, edge, and contradiction trigger deeper instincts than obedience ever could. Miss this, and you'll keep performing in someone else's fantasy, never your own reality. Someone in your circle might be struggling with this. Send this video to them. Your share might be the turning point for them. 6. The feminine instinct and the paradox of attraction. The moment you make yourself fully available is the moment she stops feeling anything. Not because she's cruel, but because you've made her safety more real than her desire. And desire doesn't grow in safety, it grows in tension. You were told to be honest, to open up, to be yourself. But what no one told you is that in the psychology of attraction, comfort is not connection. It's a signal the performance is over and she's already scanning for a new stage. Take Mark, 34, architect, sharp dresser, steady income, good with words. He met Lara at a friend's engagement party. She liked how calm he was, how polite, how available. At first. On their first date, he told her everything. his goals, his fears, his childhood wounds. She said it was refreshing. 2 months in, she said he was too nice. 4 months in, she said he felt predictable. At 6 months, she said he felt predictable. At 6 months, she said he felt predictable. At 6 months, she ghosted him. No argument, no betrayal, just nothing. She didn't leave because he made a mistake. She left because there was no edge left. No unknown, no energy of what if. Just clarity. And clarity, when offered too soon, doesn't create closeness, it creates boredom. He didn't see it coming, because all he did was everything right. But right, in her eyes, wasn't powerful. It was passive, and passivity doesn't inspire devotion, it inspires escape. Machiavelli warned that the feminine psyche isn't drawn to logic, it's pulled toward contradiction. Toward the man who contains chaos without leaking it, who withholds not out of fear but out of discipline. He compared attraction to a dance between shadow and light. If you offer only light, only truth, only softness, she begins to crave the very thing you buried to become safe. And once she senses that you've neutered your edge just to please her, she starts to test. Then she loses respect. Then she leaves. What comes next isn't about controlling her. It's about reclaiming what you gave away for free. Your unpredictability, your mystery, your masculine depth. He gave affection like a gift basket, pre-wrapped, labeled, accessible. She accepted it but never craved it. She thought, if he's this easy to win, how strong can he be? And deep down, he wondered the same. How much softness is real strength? And how much is fear pretending to be love? Stop offering full transparency to prove you're worthy. Stop answering questions she didn't earn the right to ask. Let her feel your silence before she gets to touch your story. She needs to meet the part of you that watches before it speaks, that pulls back before it gives. Because mystery isn't manipulation, it's protection. And without it, even the most loving woman will turn cold. Up next, I'll show you why the women who say they want vulnerability are often the first to punish you for showing it. He thought full access would win her loyalty. She saw it as self-erasure. And self-erasure doesn't attract, it dissolves. Attraction isn't built through exposure, it's built through restraint, through self-respect, through controlled danger. So here's your next move. Don't explain, don't post, don't overspeak, give her something to wonder about. Because when mystery returns, so does magnetism. The next part reveals the final law, where everything connects, where silence becomes power, and power becomes unforgettable. Miss it, and you'll keep showing your soul to people who only wanted a performance. If you want to become stronger, wiser, and untouchable, hit subscribe and join this growing movement. This is where everything comes together, where Machiavelli's warning becomes your blueprint for liberation. You've seen how projection traps you, how the performance drains you, and how self-betrayal disguises itself as love. But now you know, the only way out is in. Into yourself, into the man who watches instead of reacts, speaks with purpose, not apology, and walks away, not to punish, but to protect his soul. Because real attraction doesn't come from explaining, it comes from embodying, from becoming so whole, so unshakably grounded that no fantasy can rewrite who you are. So if this video cracks something open, don't ignore it, share it, sit with it, re-watch it, then subscribe. Because the next videos will sharpen the edge you've been hiding. The role is over. The mask is off. Now it's your move.